Welcome. This is an actual play of a role-playing game. All the participants are adults. The content is intended for adult viewers. We strive to keep the content PG to PG-13, but it is a horror story and may contain horror themes. Viewer discretion is advised. Enjoy. Howdy, friends and floorheads. It is Tuesday night, and I have been dying to play this game again because Zoe and I had a ton of fun in episode 1. We'll give you a quick recap, but I first want to say, Zoe, thanks for coming back.
Thank you very much, Craig, for having me. I'm very ready to get back to being Agent Layla Khan.
So, real quick, for those of you that are not watching this back to back and had to wait the month or so between episodes, what we know so far is Layla Khan woke up in the hospital. She figured out very quickly that she's lost 2 years of her life, where she does not quite remember. And the last thing she does remember is that she was an agent for MI6. She was a super spy, and she remembered her name. And as she started to try to explore some things, she found a phone. On the phone was a message saying, "Get out, they're after you." Soon afterwards, she realized that that was the truth because a whole gang of men came rushing into the hospital. Because she's a part ninja, maybe she was able to climb up onto the roof, escape, hotwire a car, and get out of there. And as she was driving down the country roads, realizing she was somewhere in Hungary, just outside of Budapest, there was an address to tell her to go to on the phone. She doesn't know what is there, but just knows that she's supposed to go there, being told by whoever sent the message on the phone. A very, very large, inhumanly large bat attacked her as she was driving and caused her to veer off the road, spin the car out of control, flip the car. So she is now in the middle of the night, somewhere on the outskirts of Budapest, Hungary. This bat thing has apparently felt like it did its job because it flew away. And Layla, I think this might be the first time in the last 30 minutes of your life that you've been able to fully exhale.
She is peered up against the side of the car. The back wheel is still spinning. She's still looking out to where the creature was. And uh, all right. Well, that was fun. Love to do that again, but I'm afraid I have places to be and things to do, and looks like I'm going to be walking. Well, at least it's not cold. She crawls back under the car, gathers maybe like a sweatshirt or like an overcoat of some kind, um, a couple of she like roots through the fast food bags that have been discarded, trying to find any kind of food item that doesn't look rotted or gross. Maybe like a day old, thing of fries or like a half eaten burger, and she'll just like rip off the part that was bit on. stuff it in her pocket. Um, check her phone, screen's cracked, still works though. Grab the GPS, which has a little bit of battery left in it, and check the trunk if the trunk popped open at all, if there's anything useful in the trunk.
So, yeah, the trunk did pop open, and let's see, what would we have in his trunk? He has got change of clothes, so let's have that be where you find the jacket,
Great. That.
um, and a whole bunch of scrubs. So he's got and they're all this is apparently is where he puts his dirty laundry, right? So
Hmm.
this guy obviously worked in the hospital or works in the hospital, and he's got about 5 pairs of scrubs that are just kind of bundled up in there. Um, yeah, I think that's about it. You've got, spare tire under the trunk, tire iron. Um, yeah, I think that's about it. This guy,
Perfect.
relatively Spartan life, and really likes fast food.
Well, the scrubs will come in handy, even if I don't wear them for their intended purpose. They're at least fabric, if in case I get hurt or need to maybe do some kind of makeshift tying of anything. I'm going to take the tire iron, so that I at least have a weapon. And I believe that's going to be about it. I'm going to start walking to Budapest.
So you start walking, and it's close to a full moon. So you have a surprising amount of light, considering, it's maybe 2, 3 a.m.
Mm,
Beautiful, beautiful landscape. It is relatively untouched. You can see the glow about 4 miles ahead of you of Budapest. So even though you're in the country and you don't have a whole lot of light pollution, you can see all of the stars. It's a clear night.
mm.
You can see where you're headed. So even if you didn't have the GPS, you knew where civilization was. And as you're walking along the country road, a low stone fence comes up. Hard to, I mean, this thing could be 400, 500 years old,
Okay.
right? It only comes up to maybe your knees, but used to mark land.
Hmm.
And as you're walking, you look to your right, and down the valley, coming off of the country road where you are, you see the silhouette of a windmill. And it's spinning very slowly, which kind of matches the light breeze. That you can tell just by the silhouette is very, very old, likely not even being used anymore. More importantly, it's familiar. You've seen that thing before. And the only feelings you have, Layla, is safe spot, refuge. It's
Camp.
familiar.
All right. Well, we have just been up all night, haven't we? Really not had a proper rest. What are we doing? Really? We just got into an accident. We really should be You know what? Let's go sit down. Let's go pop a squat over there. And so she hops over the little fence and makes her way over to the windmill. Not like jauntily and like just gonna burst right in, but definitely like on her guard. Um, keeping an eye out, keeping an ear out. Every once in a while, she'll like lift her head to see if there's any inhumanly shaped bat silhouettes in the sky. Uh,
So it's a good maybe quarter mile away, and but it's tall,
Mhm.
probably good 30 feet tall.
Love that.
Yeah, and as you start to approach, you realize that you're walking through fallow fields, not really kept any longer. And at the base of this windmill, you see 2 structures as you're approaching. One is obviously a large barn, about 2 stories, and then there seems to be a farmhouse next to it, and what's striking is not only how old this stone cone-shaped windmill is, that's 30 feet in the air, but the old stucco buildings, this barn could be 150 years old. In fact, the roof of the barn and the roof of this small farmhouse is still that soil mixed with hay thatched peaked roof. And as you get about 150 yards away, there's a light coming from the farmhouse. The landscape is familiar, but you don't know why. It's almost like you've seen it in a movie, but you know you haven't.
Mm.
And then you hear the barking, and it's getting louder and it's coming towards you.
Layla has a big smile on her face because it's like, "Oh, a dog. I love dogs." And it's like, "Oh, wait, I'm an intruder. Oh, no, maybe oh, hey, hold on." Um, Grabs the half burger that she has in her hand and just kinda, like, makes herself as not, non-aggressive as possible, as the dogs approach. Um
And the moonlight shows them, and you can see there's 4 of them. Immediately, you can recognize them as maybe 70, 80-pound dogs. So they're good sized dogs. Looks like maybe some sort of lab pit mixes.
Mhm.
And they are ferociously barking. But they are once they get within about 30 yards of you, they stop and have drawn a line, a barrier
Mhm.
between you and this farm. And they're viciously barking, and one of them, Layla goes,
Yes, that's right. Hello. I know that I'm on your territory and I do not intend to cause any problems, but I've come bearing an offering if you are so kind to accept it. And so she like rips off a small piece because there's four of them. So she's going to break them apart as evenly as possible and hold one of them out to the one that's actually sniffing.
so what's funny is the tails start wagging, but you can tell there's a level of recognition on their faces, right? So it's not the food. And in
Oh,
fact, the largest one comes up and immediately its tail is wagging so hard its
oh,
butt is
oh,
shaking.
oh,
And it runs around you,
oh,
and it's making yipping noises, and
oh.
it immediately puts its weight up against you
Oh,
wanting to be pet.
yes, hello. Hello.
And he's got that pit grin, right?
Oh,
That
oh,
huge pit grin on his face. This
I, Zoe,
dog
am
is
dead.
so happy to see you. And the other
Oh,
dogs are now jealous. The other 3 dogs
oh,
are, and now you are surrounded at like they're puppies. You're surrounded by these dogs. They are so excited to see you.
oh. Yes, you're all very good dogs, aren't you? You're just protecting the house, aren't you? As she grabs the jowls of the one who is like super friendly with her. Yes, you are. Yes, you are, and like feeding them and everything.
Oh, and they're so, I mean, the food is a bonus. They're just so excited. And you hear before you see, you hear a come on. And you look up and you see the silhouette of a man. He's got a very large straw brimmed hat. Come on. Who you got there, boys? Layla.
Hello. It y- yes. How did you know?
Uh, Layla, I wasn't expecting you. Is everything okay?
Uh, well, to be honest, no. My car was turned over down the road there, and I've become misplaced, as it were.
Okay. Um, is it just you? Did you bring your friend?
Uh, no, no, just me.
Well, and you're okay. Are you injured?
Well, I'm a little frazzled and could honestly go for a strong cup of tea, but yeah, so I'm all right.
Okay. Well, let's come in the house. Let's come in the house.
Sure, sure.
And as you get closer to him under the moonlight, you see him. He's like an incredibly friendly face. You would guess maybe mid to late 60s. He's got a very plain shirt on, like
Mhm.
the large farmer's brimmed straw hat. He's got a small, bushy white mustache. He's got white hair that's it probably takes care of himself, maybe cuts it himself. It looks a bit unkept under the hat that's stretched
Sure.
there, but he's got an incredibly friendly face,
Mhm.
and you recognize him. But again, like you, he's a in your favorite TV show, right? There's almost like there's this weird third person
Okay.
feeling you're getting about the farm and about him. So I'm going to have the two of you walking towards the farmhouse.
Mhm.
It's awfully late.
You are as astute as always. Yes.
Um, I assume you're just here to do pickup, or
Well, to be frank, I was quite hoping that you could tell me. Um, you see, I've gotten a bit turned around, and I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to be doing out here, or where I'm actually. I know I'm supposed to be heading towards Budapest, of course, but well, to be honest, everything's been a little topsy turvy lately, and so I was hoping you could tell me.
it's I mean, it's been a good 6 months since you've been here. Let's get inside. And he brings you inside, and it's a very quaint mixture of modern and terribly old. So it still has exposed timbers on the
Mm-hmm.
roof. There's a mix of some newer appliances and an old gas stove.
Yep.
He's got a wooden farm table in the center. He pulls the chair out for you. He shoos the dog. The dogs are just creating chaos. He finally gets them back out of the house to leave you alone. And he starts some tea. And he goes, "Well, I don't understand, Layla. You say you're turned around."
Well, I suppose that's not the full truth. Before I delve any further here, is there a way that I can really get a read on this guy and see if it is going to be beneficial to me to reveal that, hey, I've been asleep for the past 2 years. I don't know what happened. Or if this is a just like a drop off point, or I want to get a little bit more about this man specifically and his relationship with me.
All right, let's go to our character sheet here. So let's take a look at what we have. It's definitely gonna be under interpersonal.
Hmm.
Um, I'm thinking
It's a shame there's no animal taming under here.
I am thinking that we could probably use bullshit detector.
Okay.
That is gonna give you a sense of whether this guy is being
If
honest.
he's on the level. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and, um, for free, without spending any points. So very quickly, we're playing a gumshoe game. So Night's Black Agents is based on the gumshoe system by Robert D. Laws. Ken Hite created Night's Black Agents. And in the gumshoe system, you have investigative abilities, and interpersonal is one category of them. And because Layla has bullshit detector, it automatically works. She's gonna get some information by the fact that she has the skill, and she has what do you how many points do you have in bullshit detector?
I have 2.
She has 2 points, so I'm gonna give her information for free. After I give her this information, I will let her know if spending some of those points, which will replenish over time, will give her more information. So, kinda sizing him up, Layla, there is nothing about his body language that seems duplicitous. In fact, he's obviously very comfortable with you,
Mhm.
though you do get a sense that he's keeping a distance, and it's very subtle, but he's, pulls the chair out and then walks away.
Mhm.
Sets the tea down on his side of the table and then pushes it towards you as opposed to bringing you the tea. So he is definitely keeping a distance. If you want to spend a point, I can give you a little bit more information.
I think I'll spend a point here.
Okay. So spending a point, go ahead and drop a point. So should have one of two left. The hesitancy and the distance you can tell is him sizing you up.
Oh.
So what your gut is telling you is that he's trying to figure you out as opposed to trying to deceive you. So he's obviously familiar with you. You guys have some sort of relationship, but he is trying to gauge you. Does that make sense?
Yes. He's doing the same thing that I'm doing.
He is, but there's a different because of the point spend, you can tell
There's
if it
something that
it
there's
safety
something that
measure.
he yeah, it's a safety measure, and there's something that he knows that I clearly don't,
Yeah.
and he's trying to see if I'm in on whatever it
Um,
is that he knows.
he's and it's more, Layla, that he is trying to figure out your disposition, that he is
Oh.
trying to figure out which Layla am I dealing with. That's the
Oh.
feeling you get. Does that
Oh,
help?
is this business? Is this MI6 Layla? Is this friend Layla? Yeah, okay. Okay. Well, in that case, I think I'm gonna lean towards being as honest as possible because this gentleman is obviously comfortable with me. The dogs are an indication that I am welcome here. Um, and that I've been here enough for them to recognize me.
Yeah.
So this is while this seems like a third party memory in my head, this is definitely a place that I have frequented. And so I think she like pours the tea and lets it, takes a first sip and then lets it settle and then finally just looks up at him and goes, "Listen, I need to be completely and totally upfront and honest with you. I woke up in a hospital about, oh, say, like 2 hours ago, and I don't remember the past 2 years. I remember my name, Layla Khan, and I remember it was autumn, no, spring, before I lost my memories. Um, as soon as I woke up, there was, a black van and a bunch of agents coming in after me to probably deal with me because the doctor was very, very intent on giving me some kind of injection that would slow me down. But obviously, I'm here, so that didn't happen. And on my way here, I was attacked by some creature, some extra large flying mammal. I don't know. Perhaps it was a dream, but I did roll the car over and I was heading on my way to Budapest because there is a message on my phone that says I need to go there. And here are the coordinates. And she puts out the GPS and just lays everything out on the table and is completely upfront and honest with him, and she also sadly, with, like, a little bit of mist in her eyes, looks up at him and goes, "And I'm so sorry, but I don't remember who you are or the dogs. I just know that this is a place that I remember as if watching it on a movie. I'm so sorry to have brought this on you."
He's nodding as you talk, not interrupting you, taking it all in, and he's taking a moment,
Mhm.
and he brings the tea up and, kinda blows on it and takes a sip and sets it down, and he goes, "You don't remember the last 2 years at all?"
No, there are snippets here and there. The man who was running the operation at the hospital, I got a brief glimpse of a memory of sorts, of an interrogation, I suppose, a bad one
Well,
that I was not giving.
I've never been never were to I never was to pry. I know that you are some sort of spy or criminal or something. I wasn't one to judge. When my son introduced us, you made it definitely worth my while to keep your stash in the barn, and we developed a friendship. I guess coming on 5 years now. Um, I'd see you maybe once a year when you were in Hungary and in Budapest, and I would make you dinner and we'd catch up, and you would keep me up to date on my son and how he's been doing, and being very vague, but I've never quite known what you do. But the 2 years is interesting because something changed. Our relationship changed 2 years ago. It became all business. Um, you you normally would come alone, then you started bringing a friend, 2 different friends, 2 men, neither of which, quite frankly, I ever trusted. In fact, I insisted both of them always stay in the car when you came.
Mm.
But I haven't seen you in almost a year, Layla, and, oh my god, you're bleeding, and you look down, and where that gunshot was, you can see the red starting to bleed through your clothing. He goes, hold on, let me let me help you, let me help you." He gets up, walks over to a cabinet, and opens up the cabinet,
Mhm.
and this isn't a first aid kit, right? This guy has gear. This
Oh,
old
this
man
is
has
thi
gear.
this is a med pack.
Yeah,
Like,
he pulls out like a military grade suitcase and pops it open and pulls it out, and he goes, and he's got some bandages and some
mhm.
disinfectant, and he puts some gloves on. He goes, "Is it okay if I look at it?"
Well, to be quite frank, I did not realize it was. Yes, I suppose so, and she just takes off her, you know oh, what was I last wearing? A jumpsuit of sorts?
Yeah, you had
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
your
and my
slick
flight
jumpsuit.
suit. Yeah, so, it just unzips the jumpsuit and takes it off and doesn't really like, she's not modest at all. It doesn't matter to her, like, whatever.
And what's interesting is that you immediately feel comfortable this way, and it's now become clinical, right? And it's now become
Right.
like being at the
Yeah,
doctor's
so
office,
she, like, puts her arm up over her
right?
head and, like, doesn't move. It does the whole protocol of, like, "Alright, I'll let him do
And
whatever it is that he needs to do."
the bandages are there, and you can
Mhm.
see where it's bled through. He undoes the bandages, and he goes, "Oh, they is this a gunshot? I
That's
think you've been shot."
that is what the, clipboard, on my bed said. Um, I have a sneaking suspicion that Actually, no, wait, I think the clipboard said I was stabbed, but this is yes, no, that's what it was. I'm sorry, I apologize. It's been a long night.
He goes, "It looks," and he's kind of, going
Mhm.
behind you and kind of turning your torso, being very gentle with you. "Looks like clean through, and obviously some good surgery here." He goes, "It just you've popped a stitch. Um, if it's
Probably
okay, I'm gonna
probably
just."
from rolling the car, of course, yes. Do whatever you have to.
So he pulls out a needle and a
Mhm.
thread. He goes, this'll bite."
C can I at least have some vodka uh, can we make my tea into a hot toddy at least?
So he laughs and he goes, "Now I realize it's been a few years, but you always were more of a whiskey woman. But I do have vodka."
D whatever you have.
So he pulls out bottle of whiskey, kind of a mash smell to it.
Mhm.
He pours it,
Ooh.
gives it to you.
Mhm.
And it does bite, as he is now redoing the 2
Mm,
stitches that had popped.
yep.
But you immediately can tell you have quite a pain tolerance, right? So, like, the you go, "Well, this is really gonna really hurt." Well, it does
Mhm.
hurt, but it doesn't affect me the way that I expected it to. I mean, I can
Hmm.
feel the pain, I can see the blood, but maybe this isn't the first time I've popped a stitch and had to have it sewn up again without any anesthetic. And he says, "You asked me my name, Grigor, though you always called me Gigi. I think you might be the only person I would ever let call me Gigi. But
Hold on, I need a moment. That is so wholesome. Okay. Alright, moving on.
goes, so you don't I assume you don't know where my son is?"
I'm afraid not, Gigi. I'm sorry.
And his body language breaks a little bit. And he keeps sewing and he goes, "I mean, I'd always thought you were keeping him safe. Again, I don't know what you 2 were doing, but
I will I will figure this out, and I promise you I will find him.
okay, okay. You've got lots of questions, and I'm going to try to answer them as best as I can." And he's now wrapping you back up again.
Mhm.
And his change in demeanor, Layla, is sadness.
Yeah.
He doesn't I think he believes you. And I think he's just sad. He's just sad because it's obvious that he trusted you with his son.
Yeah, there's a "I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed" vibe,
Yeah,
and
broken, broken
oh,
heart.
that hurts way more. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, we're gonna fix this. Ugh, I have to make Kiki proud again. Ugh, okay. Um, finish the whiskey, sit back with the tea, and kind of just lay the phone out, lay the GPS out. If she can, she's gonna try to get back to the voicemail, but with the cracked screen, I imagine it's a little bit difficult.
It was a text message, so, yeah,
Oh,
you can bring up
perfect.
the text message, and it has the address, and
Mhm.
if you wanna show that to him, you can.
Yeah.
So, he looks at the address and he goes, "Huh, that's the old cave church, just on the other side, outside of town, where the monks are.
Old cave church with monks
Why
are.
would somebody have you go there? It's just a tourist attraction these days."
I don't know. Oh, but I wish I did.
So again, I recognize that you've lost time. Is there anything I can fill in for you? Do you have questions?
Well, you said that you didn't quite know what we were up to. So did you not were you not in the know of that I'm going to take a gamble here that I work for MI6?
I always figured it was something government related or criminal. Um,
Well, we like to think ourselves not criminals at MI6.
Piotr was told me he couldn't tell me, and it was for my safety.
Well,
Um,
I am sorry, Pyotr, but things being as they are, I did need to reveal a bit. So yes, I am now me, Zoe, I am now connecting the dots that Pyotr is must be Gigi's son. Got it. Okay. Uh yes, Pyotr and I worked for MI6, and we would frequently come to Budapest to, well, government things. Yeah, all nonsense, all boring and very, very not fun, honestly. Um, but up until recently, I they said they found me in a field. I must have been hiking, so we must have been on a mission, and something had gone terribly wrong.
well, I'd always gotten the impression that Piotr was your one of your local people. So maybe he was a contact for you.
That sounds about right.
Um, I haven't seen him in 8 months now,
8 months, you say? All right.
a- and he looks up at the mantle, and it's got this is a classic, just old, late 18th century
Mhm.
farmhouse, right? So you've got this gorgeous stone fireplace that he no longer uses to cook in, but that's what it was built for. It had a huge
Yeah.
hearth and this impressive timber mantle. And on the mantle, you see a picture, which you noticed but didn't focus on until he's now focused on it. And you see
Mhm.
him um, standing there in the same shirt he's wearing now, and he's got his arm around a man, and you can tell by looking at him now and looking at him in the picture that the picture is maybe 5 years old. And the person he's got his arm around at the time of the picture, you would guess is maybe 18. So piecing things together, that would make Piotr, early 20s at this point. And you recognize Piotr. You recognize his face.
Yeah, I think Layla stands up slowly and walks over to the mantle and looks at the photograph. May I?
Of course.
Picks it up and looks at it a little closer.
You're a little woozy,
Oh,
Layla,
that might
looking at it.
that might be the blood loss. I think she does kind of teeter a little bit and then go to sit down on whatever seating arrangement is near the hearth.
And you sit on a really, like, one of those one of those wooden farm rocking chairs that
Oh, yep.
that people in Manhattan spend $700 to buy, but he
Yes. Oh,
obviously made this one.
uh-huh.
And you sit on it and you feel the creak, and as you sit down, like in the car, you flash black, and you're sitting down already at a table, but it's a metal chair, and it's a metal table, and it's a different room, and you're watching things from the outside. So you see yourself sitting in this chair at this table, and you are very comfortable and relaxed. And in front of you is Pieter. And he's talking to somebody, and you realize that that person he's talking to has got his back to you and is facing Pieter. And Pieter has a look of absolute terror on his face. And he says, "No, no, 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 no. That's not how it is. That is not how it is. That's not how this happened. That's not how this went down." And this voice comes from this man who's got his back to you and says, "I can smell your lies." No, 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 no. No, it's a misunderstanding. It's a misunderstanding. Jovitso, it's a misunderstanding. Layla. And you see yourself go, "Yes, master." "When did the lies start?" And you say, "2 months ago." "She's lying. She's lying."
Mm.
This thing who's still not facing you, has got his back to you. This is all replaying. This is a very vivid, real memory for you.
Mhm.
Unlike the last time, which was kind of this symbolic,
Hazing.
like dreamy
Mhm.
thing, this is not dreamy. You see this pale hand grab the neck of Pieter and lift him like he weighs nothing. And he throws him against the wall
Mm.
with a level of force that smashes his head. And you can tell that he's dead before he falls to the ground and slides down to the wall. This man turns halfway to you, and you get a silhouette. He's a beautiful man with long black hair, incredibly pale skin. You did well, Layla. You're back into the farmhouse, and we're going to take a 10-minute break.
No.
I'll be right. you don't know how much time has gone, but just looking around, it looks like no time at all. It looks like you're just now the weight of your body is hitting the chair. So this flashback vision or whatever it was or replay may have, spent 2 minutes long, but 2 minutes haven't passed as you now hit the chair and the warmth from the fire can be felt. Are you okay?
That's a big ol' nope, Craig. Layla has the picture in her hand, and all of a sudden, she feels utterly sick. And I'm not talking about, whiskey to the head sick or gunshot wound bleeding sick. She feels utterly disgusted with herself. She automatically just tenses, um, covers her the brings her hand to her mouth, almost as if like she's actually going to retch, and stands up, puts the photograph back on the mantle, pretty much in the exact same spot it was. Doesn't finish whatever tea or whiskey she had, and starts to gather her things and looks in Gigi's direction, but cannot look him in the face, and says, "Well, if I'm going to if I'm going to finish whatever it is I need to do, I think I need to get moving. Getting to this place will hopefully give me answers to find Pyotr, and I'll let you know as soon as I find out anything. But I think it's best if I keep moving. Uh,
You shouldn't be walking, and you shouldn't be walking in your condition.
I'll be all right. I just
I know you
really
need to go to the barn, and that's fine, but you can do that in the morning.
can I try and like let's do some interpersonal thing here. Let's see if I can. I definitely don't want to intimidate him.
Well, well, yeah,
I don't want to
yeah,
hurt Gigi.
and we may not need to use the character sheet
I
at all. What does Layla want?
Yeah, Layla just she, she needs to get the heck out of here because wow, I just had a memory of your son being dead, and you told me that I was always supposed to take care of him, and I certainly didn't do that. And I Layla feels that she has worn out her welcome and
Mm,
that she does not belong here anymore. Even though she does feel in her heart that that was something she wouldn't do, but because of the strange influence this person had, it felt like she didn't have a choice. Like she felt very disjointed from the memory. Like seeing it in that third person told her that maybe I didn't want to do this. Um, and so she's
yeah, there
just
was an
kind of
out of body feeling to all of it. Yeah,
yeah.
so you're capturing it perfect. You're capturing it perfect. It was the person you were watching was very comfortable, was very relaxed, and was not shocked at all by what Layla now saw.
Yeah,
So I think all of
she
those make sense to me.
yeah. So I think she's just gonna just reassure him that, no, I've dealt with worse things. I'll be all right. It's just the tea certainly helped. I just needed to sit down for a bit and gather my thoughts.
Are you
And
gonna
I
are
thank
you gonna
you.
take the bike?
The bike, yes. If you wouldn't mind.
Well, it's yours. The keys are by the door.
All right. Um, she walks over to the door, sees the keys, takes them.
Harley
Uh,
Davidson key ring.
oh, yes. Layla's got taste. uh, and she opens the door and she steps outside to leave.
The
But
dogs are right there.
oh
They're
yeah,
sitting.
yep, yep. Um, and she looks at the dogs and says, "All right, kids, I've got to go." And
And
she
they
get
head towards the barn. As soon as
yep.
you say that, they know where you're headed.
They know
They
where they
run to the barn.
no. Okay, okay. Um, she pauses in the threshold a bit and turns just slightly. Still does not have the strength to look Gigi in the eyes, but she does nod and say, "I will let you know what happens, regardless."
And be careful. This is this is not about the money that you have sent me. This is about you. And you have a home here. You know that.
I think at that point she does look Gigi in the eyes, and there are pools of tears that have yet to fall, and she nods and says, "I certainly would like that. I'll see you around." And trying really hard to keep it together as she walks towards the barn, um, goes to the Harley Davidson, and the
Well,
stash, apparently? I've got a stash in the
so
barn?
let's talk about the barn. So you walk up to the barn. It's this whitewashed stucco outside. Again, easily could be a 200-year-old barn. And there's a large sliding barn door that's about 10 foot tall. The dogs are all there anxiously awaiting for you to open the door. And you slide the barn door open, and there's a huge tractor, um, maybe from like the late 40s, early 50s. It's, coming on an
Wow.
80-year-old tractor. And you can tell because some of the vines have grown there's no floor to this barn at all. There's some vines that have grown up. So obviously hasn't been used in a long time. And the dogs run over, and two of the dogs run over to what is obviously a motorcycle covered with a tarp. And two other dogs run over to an oddly placed stack of hail bays. And they seem to be like, which way is she going to go? What's she going to do? The way dogs do, right? They're trying to gauge what's next.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
next? We've
The
done this
wait,
before. What are we going to do?
wait. Yeah. I think she briskly, like, rubs the tears away from her eyes and walks over half walks, runs over to the, um, bike, takes the tarp off, checks the gas, checks everything that she needs to check, oil, make sure that it's ready for her to go. Um,
It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous
oh,
bike.
of course it is.
Gorgeous bike. Probably 15 or 20 years old, but either you or Gigi has kept this bike in tip top shape. You check the gas, gas is fine. You check the ignition, you go boom, the battery's good. You can see that you or Gigi has stashed a small red gas can under it. It's one of those old metal ones that are kind of a half globe.
Mhm,
But looking at the gauge, it's full.
good. Uh, get that started and going and head over to the other area where the dogs are patiently waiting for me and see what's over there.
And they're sniffing around the base of these. There's like three bales of hay that are kind of up there, and they're sniffing around the bottom. And as you kind of move one of the big bales of hay, you see the door. And you can see
Open the
that
door.
there's a wood cellar that has been dug into the floor here, and it is much newer. than the barn. The wood is relatively new. In fact, it's untreated, like pine. So this was built, maybe you would guess, within the last 10 years. It's got a huge ring, and you lift the ring up, and it's a shallow recess into the ground. And there's a huge, like, athletic duffel bag.
Oh, pull that out, open it up.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
You might want to get a pen.
Okay.
Because this is a stash.
I've got
So
stuff.
you've got a 9 millimeter pistol in there, and it's got about four clips. You check the gun. The gun is loaded. It's got a full clip inside of it, plus four other clips. There's a sealed Ziploc plastic bag. You undo the plastic bag, you look into it, it's got about 8 passports in it
8.
to several different countries with several different names, all with your picture on it.
Okay.
Wrapped in a plastic bag with duct tape. You tear the duct tape open, you see a plastic bag is in there. You look in the plastic bag, and there is hundreds of dollars, euros, all probably seven different currencies, and together the equivalent of $10,000, but split between, all these different currencies.
Mhm.
You've got a small lunchbox. It's a 1980s vintage lunchbox from an old TV show. What TV show? What lunchbox would Layla have bought to hold her medical supplies?
Charlie's Angels.
It's an old Charlie's Angels lunchbox, and
Absolutely.
you pop it open, and inside there are bandages, there's, a sewing stitching kit, there are painkillers, very strong painkillers, and this is an emergency medical kit that you obviously have put together.
Mhm.
There's also an British Army grade flask, the
Okay.
kind that has the soup cup on top, right? And you
Ooh.
take it off and you
Ooh.
would pour into the soup cup.
Yes.
And you pick it up and immediately can tell it's got something in it. You can
Mhm.
feel the liquid sloshing around in it. And you also see a photograph, and it's an old photograph, maybe like early 20th century, like 1930s, 1920s. It's hard to tell by looking at it, but you can tell it's at least a 100-year-old photograph. And it's
Okay.
a photograph of a crucifix.
Huh.
And it's an old picture, and it's metal, obviously antique, maybe it's made of silver. You can see a glass vial next to this picture of the crucifix, and it's all resting on this red cushion. So real quick, we've got a gun, we've got a bag of
Mhm.
passports, we've got a ship ton of cash, we've got a Charlie Angels lunchbox full of medical supplies, we've got a thermal flask that's got some sort of liquid inside of it, and you've got this photograph. Now, this is another thing that's neat about Gumshoe. Gumshoe has a skill called preparedness,
Mm.
and this basically allows you to say, you know what else, Craig, was in that duffel bag was this. So later on in this adventure, you can roll your preparedness skill, and on a success, yeah, that Phillips head screwdriver was also in this duffel bag. So there's various other things we're not going to define until you need them defined based on your preparedness roll.
'Kay.
One other connection is looking at the size of this duffel bag. And the rear end carriage that was retrofitted onto this Harley Davidson,
Mhm.
that's what it's for, is to
Mm.
carry this duffel bag.
Gotcha. Okay. After I check everything and make sure everything's in order, I attach that duffel bag to the back. grab the helmet that's waiting for me. Rezip up my jumpsuit and um, put on that coat that I borrowed from the car. Um, um, I'd like to send off the dogs each with a little kiss on the head, and they all sit in front of me, waiting very patiently but also eagerly to escort me out of the barn. But Layla does say before she puts on the helmet, "Now, I need you all to be very, very good for Gigi. All right?" And they all just sit there, tongues wagging and everything. Is like, all right, let's send me off then. She puts the helmet on and starts the bike, and
And as you start the bike, I'm just going to interject one thing real
mhm,
quick, Layla,
yes,
is that as you were zipping the bag back up again and putting the flask or the thermos back down, you caught a whiff from the thermos,
hmm,
and it was a familiar smell, something that you've smelled recently
whiskey.
when you were in the car. You blacked out for a moment
Uh huh.
and you remembered these hands, this vision dream, surreal hands gripping you. And you took a flask, not this thermos. You took a flask and you drank something, and it tasted like rose water and had a very pungent smell. And you realize that's the smell you're getting from the thermos as well.
We'll leave that as it is for now. But I am very sus. She puts the helmet on and walks the bike out of the barn. That way, there's not fumes in the barn. And begins to drive off. And I like to imagine that the dogs run with her for a little while until they hit the property line, and then they bark wildly and jump and are playing with each other, and then they head back home.
And God, does this bike feel like your favorite pair of jeans?
Ah, yes.
And the headlamp is shining. And I imagine you probably threw that GPS into the duffel bag, but
Yes.
you
Yes.
don't need it now because the roads are familiar and you know the left, the 2 miles, the right at the old tree. You know exactly how to get to Budapest.
Mhm.
And it's not gonna take you hours. It's gonna take you maybe 30 minutes,
Yep.
maybe 20 minutes if you push it, and you head in to Budapest. As it gets closer, you start to hear the sounds of the city. Budapest in 2022 is a very metropolitan
Mm.
city. And like a lot of um, Eastern Europe, it's a conglomeration of the old and the new. There is the people that live in Budapest that have lived there for generations, and there's also young teenagers and early 20s who are partying. And considering it's about 4 a.m. when you're pulling into the city, you're seeing people leaving discos after dancing all night. You're seeing old ladies getting up in the morning, and all of it is so familiar. In your bones, you've lived here off and on for a while. And as you're driving, instinct is taking you to the center of the city. Now, you know you have to go through the center of the city to get to this cave church, this address that was on your phone.
Mhm.
But as you take a left, as you take a right, you get to a neighborhood and something tells you to stop.
I have had this feeling before. I should listen to it this time. Stops the bike, kind of pulls it off to the side as best she can. Maybe there's an old vendor cart that has one too many tarps on it. So she kind of takes the tarp down and covers the bike. Um, doesn't take the duffel bag off, but definitely like has the gun on her, maybe
Mm.
two of those clips. Grabs a bunch of um, whatever the currency is in Budapest. Um, just like a wad of cash and maybe takes one of those heavy duty painkillers.
Which I think is smart.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, I think she is gonna open that flask and kind of sniff at it a bit, and because these heavy duty pills are also big, just take a small sip and drink it.
And it's water, but it's water that smells of roses, and you can tell it's rose infused water.
Hmm.
And as the liquid goes down your throat, as you take this horse pill of a painkiller,
Hmm.
you get a feeling from this water. And this is not the water affecting you. This is the type of feeling that when you go home and take a sip of your mom's coffee, it's
Ah,
right. It's just coffee, but there's something about the way mom brewed coffee,
yep.
and so it's familiar and you taste it, and the feeling that overwhelms you is safety and freedom, and you immediately emotionally tie that to the taste of this water.
It's just never ending, is it? Take another sip. A comfort sip of like, whew, I don't know what I'm gonna get myself into tonight, but I could use the extra boost. Put the flask away and head on foot to the area I need to go.
So as you're walking through, the city's alive, but it's late night, early morning, and instinctually, you have become invisible. So even though you're not dressed like a local, even though you right now don't feel like a local, you instinctively are able to move through these streets and not be noticed. Nobody turns their head, nobody looks at you odd. You know how to navigate the streets of Budapest. And you move into a neighborhood that isn't home, but is familiar.
Hmm.
And you find yourself at the stoop of a relatively new brownstone in the heart of the city. And you're not quite sure how you got there, but you recognize this place. And before we do anything, I want to talk about what you're feeling.
Mm.
This place is familiar. This place is tied to work, the work you do, and whoever owns this place is somebody who you've trusted despite the fact that they're not trustworthy.
Hmm. I think she stands at the door for a little while. Well, here we are again. why I involve myself in this, but he's never steered me wrong before. Hopefully, he didn't steer me wrong in the past. If he did, well, there's a bullet with his name on it and a clip. But this is the only lead I have, so here we go. She knocks on the door.
You hear a buzz, and you realize that there's a intercom to
Oh,
your left. What?
it's Layla.
What?
Let me in.
Yeah. Give me a second. Ugh. And it clicks off.
Mm-hmm.
And probably 30 seconds pass, and it's like, okay, whoever this is, maybe they're sleeping naked, need to put on some, pants or something like that. And a minute passes, and then 90 seconds pass.
Ooh, this is very uncomfortable. This is getting. It's like, all right, I did wake him up. It's very early in the morning. That definitely. Nope, he's not making coffee. So, I think.
And
Let,
there's a frosted glass. You can
Mhm.
see a silhouette approaching the frosted glass. A light turns on inside.
Oh, there's her hand is definitely on the gun, ready to go.
Okay. You hear click, clank, like a series of locks are being
Hmm.
undone. And he pucks when he goes, and as the door opens, a smell just overtakes you of a person who smokes 3 packs of cigarettes inside their home. And it's just this cheap Turkish tobacco smell just fills your nose as the door opens. And the door opens, and standing there in an old pair of jeans and a sweatshirt, like a hoodie that's zipped up, but you can tell he has nothing else under it, right? So you can see the hair on his chest.
Mm.
Balding man, maybe early 40s. He's got this manicured, spent way too much time thinking about it, thin goatee mustache situation going on. He's got this hand rolled cigarette in his hand that you can tell he just lit. And he goes, "The fuck are you doing here?"
Oh, the gun is underneath the chin, baby.
And it comes up and he goes, "Jesus Christ.
And she
What the
steps
fuck,
inside,
Layla?
closes the door. It took you bloody long enough. She
Do you know,
takes the
what
cigarette
time I
out,
go to bed?"
takes the cigar out of his hand and, like, "Well, did you bring a light at least?"
Wha- Look, I, y- you're being weird.
And I've had a very rough night. Now, if you wouldn't mind, if you just take your sweet time as we walk back in here, I need to know what the fuck has been going on. All right?
Look, sister, I have not seen you in like 8 months.
Mhm.
So I have the same questions. So
Great.
first off, I haven't gotten a check in 3 months.
Oh, I see. It's about the money. I've got you. Yes, yes. Well, she holds reveals the wad of cash and then like puts it away and is like, "You'll get that as soon as we're done here. I, as you said, have many questions."
Okay, why don't you put the little toy away?
You wish it was a little toy. She puts it away. And it's like,
And,
"Oh god, have you been
and,
smoking that hashish again?"
and
Oh.
here's what's weird, Layla, is that he wasn't scared of you,
Mm.
right? Like, so, like, if anybody else on this planet has a gun put to the bottom of their chin, would be losing their freaking mind
Oh,
right
yeah.
now. And he's just like, okay, this is a handshake, right?
Alright, Layla.
And what's crazy, Layla, is that
Mm.
as soon as you put the gun away, he turns his back to you and just starts walking down the hall of the
Mhm,
brownstone
mhm,
into the kitchen. Now, let's take in some information about this place.
mhm,
Not the first time you've been here.
mhm.
It's an interesting mix of old and new money,
Okay.
right? So you can see antiques, but you can also see, like, sharper image type crap that this
Ugh.
person has bought, right? Um, and as you kinda head down the hallway, it takes you to a kitchen. The kitchen screams bachelor. It's got a functional table. It's got a microwave. It's got an oven that likely hasn't been turned on in a while. He reaches up into a cabinet, keeping his back to you, fully trusting you, pulls out another pack of cigarettes, pulls one out, lights it, and he turns around and goes, "Where the hell have you been? And why did the check stop?"
I haven't the foggiest. And she holds out the cigarette, like, expecting him to light it.
Yeah, which he does.
Mhm. She takes a long drag. It's probably the crappiest tobacco ever, but that's all that he's got, so it's like, ugh.
And and based on, like, the money this guy obviously spends,
He
like,
can
dude,
he can
like
afford the good
right,
stuff, but he
right,
just chooses to smoke, like,
exactly.
the equivalent of, Virginia Slims.
Basic, right?
Um,
"Hey, Coda, thanks for the sub."
and I think she takes one drag, immediately remembers what the taste of that is, puts it out
Oh, it's like
immediately,
fish hooks going into your
uh,
lungs.
coughs a bit, is like, "You you know you can afford the good stuff, right? Why is it that you insist on smoking this rubbish?" Ugh.
"Why do you insist on taking 2 drags of every cigarette I give you and putting it out?"
Oh, because ugh, maybe if you got the good tobacco, from eh, that's not what we're here for. Sorry. Listen, I'll be on the level with you. I've been comatose the past 2 years. So I don't know why your check stopped. I don't know why you haven't seen me in 8 months. 8 months you said.
"Comatose?
Comatose. Yes,
You were he
out cold.
you were here 8 weeks ago."
This is news to me. Tell me, did I have coffee and take 2 drags of the cigarette then too?
So he turns, and there's a small window above his sink,
Mhm.
and it's closed, and you can see it looks on to, like, the alleyway behind the house, right behind this brownstone. He
Sure.
closes the curtains, he turns around and goes, "What the hell are you talking about?"
I told you I was comatose. I woke up in the hospital not 4 hours ago with a gunshot wound. I don't remember anything for the past 2 years. Would I lie to you?
"Probably, but that's never stopped us before. Sit down, sit down."
She does.
Reaches out, grabs a glass, doesn't
Mhm.
even ask you, pulls
Mhm.
out some whiskey.
Yep.
"You know I only keep this for you, it's Jack Daniels. This shit's
Yes.
expensive." Pours it for you neat, sets it down in front of you, and he goes, "Everybody's been saying you've been out.
And
For 2 years, you've been acting strange. Payment still came. I still gave you information. But instead of coming from the UK, it came in envelopes. And now you're telling me you've been comatose? So who have I been talking to for the last 2 years?"
that's a very good question that I would very much like the answer to. Did she look like me? Did she act like me? Give me more detail. I need copious details.
"Layla,
She takes a shot, passes the shot glass back to him.
what makes you think you've been comatose for 2 years? You've been here."
Look,
It
I
wasn't
know.
it didn't look like you, it was you.
All right. I don't know how I can state this any clearer. I have no memory. The last thing that I remember was it was springtime, and I think I was out in the mountains, in the wilderness. I was hiking, and then I woke up in a hospital with a gunshot wound that they were claiming was a stab wound. Almost had the doctor lace me with something. A bunch of men in a black van tried to nab me while I was in the hospital. I escaped, obviously, found my stash, and got here
I mean,
because
you
this was
always
the last thing on my phone. And she tosses it over to him,
and he
the text
looked at the
message.
address and he goes, "The old monk church?"
That's where they're telling me to go.
So the last thing you remember is like spring 2 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, something's weird because, I mean, like I said, shit changed with us, right? I was feeding you information as you did all your little doodads here, and then suddenly checks stop coming from the queen and they start coming from you in cash. And I figured you just got mixed up with the mob here and switched allegiances or something, and some sort of power shift happened. And I mean, you were doing all kinds of dirty shit and getting caught up with stuff. I didn't ask questions because you paid the money and you asked me for the same information. So
What information did I ask?
you'd ask me the standard stuff, who is coming in, who is coming out, who's running the city. You'd ask,
Nothing odd, nothing strange.
well, you stopped asking me about, what's happening at the Capitol. You stopped asking me about diplomats coming in and out and stuff. You stopped asking me for key cards to the hotels and stuff. And you started asking me about who's running things. I figured you started investigating the mob here, or I don't know what was going. I didn't ask questions. That's part of the reason you and I got along so well. You had the money, I had the info.
Right, right. When was the last check you received from the Queen?
Let me think. I don't know. Yeah, I guess about 2 years ago. And then you just said the same money was gonna come, you're just gonna pay me in cash.
All right. Oh, this doesn't bode well.
I knew you were involved with the government there.
Oh dear. What have I been up to? And I think at that point, Layla starts talking to herself. Like she's in the room with this man, obviously, but uh, she just begins to talk to herself. She's like, "All right, well, we stopped giving you the check. Well, the Queen stopped giving you the check about 2 years ago, and yet I still paid you with an envelope, no pay stub, no nothing, in cash until about 8 months ago. So I was still active 8 months ago, up until 8 months ago. So what would I have been doing?"
I don't know, were you staying at the farmhouse? The last time I
No.
saw you, you told me to drive you to some old dude's farmhouse just outside of the city,
Yes. All right. And
who had
then
those fucking dogs that wouldn't let me get out of the car.
oh, they're all right. He also said he hadn't seen me for 8 months. But oh, pour another shot, will you? Come on.
So, here's another shot. He sets it down in front of you, and he goes, "When's the last time you talked to John?"
Who?
Jesus Christ, woman. Your
I
partner,
I
John.
I told you. I was comatose. I have amnesia. I don't remember anything. She grabs the shot and just shoots it back and then flips it upside down and like slides it across the table over to him.
So you don't remember Sinclair, and as soon as that name leaves his lips, Sinclair, you flash for a second a face. A man about your age. He's got an overgrown beard, the kind that grows down to the neck.
Mhm.
He's athletic. He's fit. He is ethnically ambiguous.
Mm, 'kay. Love that.
And the last time you saw him was on the phone in front of the hospital as he was sending the men in after you.
Kind of flashback, which is basically just her blinking once. He was at the hospital. He was the one sending those men
What are
there.
you even talking about?
The
So you have talked to John.
No, I haven't talked to him, I saw him. He stepped out of the vehicle and sent those men in after me.
You got yourself up into some shit, haven't you?
I suppose so. Now tell me more about Sinclair. Did I work for him? Is he part of
If
our—
anything, he worked for you.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you guys were both tied in the same thing, right? I figure some secret spy shit from Britain. Sometimes you would come, sometimes he would come. I always gave you the information you needed. I always gave you the cards to get into the hotel rooms or the codes to break into some diplomat's house. I mean, it was
Alright
always
then.
you like you're the dynamic duo.
When was the last time you saw him?
Sinclair?
Mhm.
Shit, you stopped. Now that I think about it, I guess it's been over a year since I saw the two of yous together. Maybe even close to 2 years. Did you guys have a falling out?
I think I think this is when, the pieces kind of fall into place a bit. With the information that this informant that she's speaking to has stopped getting written checks from the British government, which obviously is written by MI6. And with this falling out with her subordinate, I suppose, partner, who knows?
And
Uh,
just as a quick reminder, remember you
mhm,
when you saw his face at the hospital, you remembered that interrogation. It was him doing the interrogating.
yeah,
But go ahead.
yep. And with that mini memory, I think Layla is going to come to the realization that she has been blacklisted
Mm.
for something, whatever happened in the mountains, whatever mission she was going on. She was either— the details are ambiguous, but she was either betrayed by her partner or something went terribly wrong and she was written off. So Layla in this moment comes to the decision that MI6 has basically just written her off as dead or, blacklisted. And so she—
You think you've been burned.
yeah, yeah, I've been burned. She grabs the shot glass, reaches over, grabs the whiskey, opens the bottle of whiskey, and proceeds to take at least 3 shots worth directly out of the bottle. Um, Closes it back up, gives it back to him. Well, it appears I'm no longer working for MI6.
Yeah, I figured that happened a while ago. You were involved with some dirty shit. It wasn't
Oh,
about diplomats and people in nice suits and stuff. It started being about shady dudes running nightclubs and I don't know, just the underbelly. Like suddenly you cared about what was happening here.
about the black market, yes. All right. All right. I went from high upstanding agent to full-blown criminal. Wonderful. Love that for me. Um, is there anything else you can give me that would tip you off? Was there anyone with me when I came to visit you 8 months ago? In the car, in waiting in the street, in the alley, nothing?
No, other than just acted like a excuse me, but, like, started just acting like a bitch. Everything was all, like, nothing friendly, you wouldn't take me out, and buy me a drink or nothing, you just wanted the info, here's the cash, and it was all business. So, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Layla, I haven't talked to this Layla in a while. It's been over 2 years since you've sat in that chair. You would come in, you wouldn't even sit down.
Hmm.
You kinda creeped me out a little bit.
Well, I do apologize for that. Clearly, I wasn't myself. Ugh, what a mess. All right. All right. Well,
Listen, you paid for the room. I still have it. And he just points upstairs.
mhm. All right. Why don't I go upstairs, chill out a bit, and figure something out here? Figure out why they want me to go to this place. See if I can find anything else on my phone. Unfortunately, with what I had, I couldn't really delve much deeper. The other thing is that all of everything is erased. So the only thing I have is the beautiful view of the hotel in the sunset, and this message. And uh, oh, I did get a call. Oh, and she like tries to work through the cracked screen to bring up like the recent calls and show him the number and see if he recognizes it.
Well, it was unknown caller. So he
Mm.
he looks at it, he goes, "I mean, if you wanna leave the phone with me, I might have something in a day or so. I can get one of the guys to break in, see if they can't figure it out, backtrack it."
You know what? Let's do that. Let's do that. Because I can use all of the intel I can get before I walk into what possibly could be a trap. I'm not even sure.
And as you slide the phone towards him, he's giving you that, the guy who took your luggage up to your hotel room
Oh,
and
oh,
is
looking
standing there
looking for a tip?
uncomfortably. I mean, I can take care of it for you. I can get one of my guys to look at it, if that's what you want.
She takes out the wad of cash and starts counting, looks at him, like, gives him, like, the over the eye if she was wearing glasses, over the glasses look, and like,
And as you flip some of the bills, he goes, "I mean, that'll cover the first 4 numbers if I get the trace back, if you want all 7."
You now you're just being rude. I only just woke up 4 hours ago.
He goes, "Look, your room's up there, crash there. Anything else? I mean, how long are you gonna be up there for?" "I'm up now, so."
I need to sleep, so I
"Do
don't
you
know it.
remember my name?"
No, can't say I do.
"It's Billy."
Billy. Is that
"Holy
short for
shit, you
something?
don't remember my name."
I don't remember anything. What have you not been listening to anything that I've said the past 45 minutes?
"Jesus Christ, Layla, my name is Sam. Holy shit, you're for real."
Yes, I'm for real. For real life, I suppose. This is this is very aggravating. I'm going
Alright,
to
well,
I'm going to go
what can I do
upstairs.
to help?
I'm going to go upstairs, take a shower, and I don't know, finish off that bottle of Jack and hopefully go to bed. I haven't slept.
If you need something, let me know. I'll go down to the pastry place. I'll have your Danish here.
Danish?
You really lost your goddamn memory, didn't you? The apple Danish, your favorite from around the corner?
Well, hopefully, if I bite into it, the memory will be strong enough and it will come back. But
Wow.
as far as I know, I don't know if that's my favorite or not, Sam.
So let's have you
Mhm.
head upstairs
Head upstairs.
and instinctively, top of the
Mm.
stairs, first door on the right. You open that door, and whoever is responsible for this room had no input on the rest of this brownstone. You walk in and it's yours.
Oh my god, it is like a scene from The Kingsman. It is a posh, fully lavished British abode, complete with like a tea room and a full clawfoot tub. Oh, yes. She just walks in and like instantly just like, oh, thank God. Just goes, draws herself a bath, throws a bunch of rose scented bath bombs in there, just makes herself completely at home, pours herself a glass of whiskey, sits in the tub for a little bit, nurses the bullet wound, takes care of all that. And it's just like a montage of just every moment it cuts over to her, her head is just like, ah, yes.
So let's do a little inventory real quick. I would like to get a sense of, and then we'll cover some mechanics here in a little bit,
Mhm,
but I want to get a sense of what Layla is piecing together as she finally is safe, is finally relaxed. This feeling you had outside of the brownstone of I trust him, even though he's untrustworthy, makes total sense now that you've spent
mhm.
time with Sam,
Yep.
right? W- I mean, it's been a hell of, I mean, maybe 2.5, 3 hours. And what is running through Layla's brain right now as
Oh.
she is laying in that bath with that warm, neat whiskey?
Mhm. All right. So, Jack, let's go over the details, shall we? She's talking to the whiskey. To the more specifically to the reflection of herself in the whiskey glass.
And by the way, you have a
Mhm.
reflection.
Of course I do. Oh, good. Yes, fantastic. Lovely. Hey,
Small detail.
very small, very important detail. Fantastic. Um, All right, Jack, let's go over the details. So, apparently, we've been blacklisted or burned from MI6 approximately 2 years ago for something involving whatever this is. Or perhaps this is fairly recent, so maybe not attributed to this. So, then afterwards, we came back here, we did business as usual, but more business. And I suppose we've gotten ourselves tangled up in the underbelly of Budapest. I don't know why, but we did, and there was that man, that gorgeous, terrifying man
Attractive.
who killed Piotr. And that was 8 months ago. Sam remembers it because he drove me to Gigi's place. So it must have happened recently. Oh, I called him Master. Ugh. Ugh. Huh. And then she's like looking at her reflection and then kind of like past it as like memory is floating in the whiskey and that big giant inhuman bat thing. She's like, and what the fuck was that? Why was that? Hmm. Well, puts the whiskey glass down. Oh, we're in the thick of it now, Layla. What are we going to do about this?
Let's go ahead and cut to credits. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this at the end of episode 1, which is this really odd tightrope of the classic amnesia plot line, right? Which, has been a staple of movies, books, and RPGs for since the beginning of time. And the first thing, and not that you would be dishonest to me, but like I really want to know, um, are we walking that line? It's important for me as your GM to know if you're getting frustrated or if the reveals have been enough. Like where's Zoe?
Mhm. Oh,
Does that make
Zoe's
sense?
yeah, no, that does make sense. Zoe's fascinated.
Okay.
Uh, uh, Zoe, me, picked picked up that Layla had been blacklisted very early on. Like, the moment that that black van came up and the people got out and were heading straight for her room, the doctor trying to inject her with a drug that would, like, make it easier for them to come in and do whatever it is they need to do, whether they put a black bag over her head and carted her off somewhere or killed her right there. Like, that to me, immediately blacklisted. That is a standard trope in any, like, spy,
Right.
um genre. Um, Layla, however, figured it out obviously much later. And it wasn't until, even at Gigi's house when he revealed, hey, I haven't seen you for 8 months, even though she's been in a coma for 2 years. It didn't quite click that she had been there doing things um, until she got to this informant and he was acting real weird. Because Gigi wasn't putting up a weird front, right? So it wasn't until we got here that she realized, oh shit, if the checks stopped coming in, that means I'm no longer working with MI6. I'm not part of the Queen's government anymore. That's bad. That's very bad. And even more so is her now involvement with this seedy underbelly of Budapest and whoever this attractive, scary man is that she called master. Um, the only frustrating thing as a player is um it's like with any detective story that you're following, it's like you've got all of the clues and they're
Yeah.
here, but there's just a few that you need to really come up with a solid hypothesis of what happened, who done it.
Yep.
And I'm still missing those little snippets. Like it's like a red string theory board, right? I've got one leading over here, I've got one leading over here, and then I've got a completely different color string leading over to this inhuman creature thing. And it's like, what are you? Where do you fit in? And it's fascinating to me, and it's only slightly frustrating because I don't have all the pieces and I wanna solve the problem. But
So
that
it's
that's just
frustrating in the way it's supposed to be
it's
frustrating?
frustrating in the way it's supposed to be frustrating, yes. It
That's
is
fair.
vexing me in the exact manner it is built for.
So as a player, from a pacing standpoint, is it Goldilocks just right? Is it too fast, too slow?
This is probably just right.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
just right.
And something that's neat, and you and I talked about a little bit about this one-on-one is like, I don't have to worry about 4 players getting the pacing right because I can, I know for 2 of the players it's going to be, or one of the players is going to be too slow. One of the players is going to be too fast. The other two is going to be, like you're working in a group dynamic, but I'm very conscious of pacing in this one-on-one environment. And so I'm glad. And, and again, you and I have good communication, offline as well. Um, and I'm playing with a GM, which is
Mhm,
awesome too. So
mhm.
you can see what I'm doing, right, and can understand what I'm doing. So I want to keep that line of communication open with us because this is a learning experience for both of us.
Yeah,
This is my second time running a one-on-one, and I think you mentioned this is the first time in a while or the first time ever.
first time ever.
Yeah. So this is a neat experiment, I think, for the two of us. Let's get a sense of let's jump right to wishes. So we do stars and wishes, which I get from the Gauntlet podcast, Cordova's media empire over there at the Gauntlet. Um, I want to start with wishes, and wishes. The idea behind wishes is where we're not talking about what Layla's hoping for because that's a whole nother thing.
Mhm.
What is Zoe hoping to get from the next episode or two? What are you
Oh,
hoping to get as the player?
I
Either more of something, something that hasn't happened yet,
Mhm.
something you're looking forward to.
I am looking forward to finding out more about the creature and this this beautiful haunting man. Just getting more of that because the gumshoe bit of like finding out that I'm not with MI6 is pretty self-explanatory, and it's like, okay, cool, my partner slash subordinate is the one that's after me now. Great, awesome, love that for me. Um, but I, as the player, am extremely interested in the uh listen, there's a skill here that says vampirology, okay, which means that there's vampires in this game. I'm waiting very patiently to see more vampires.
Well, and something that I have purposely because we have a separation here, right? So you know
Mhm,
you're playing Knights Black Agents, which
mhm.
is super spy vampire hunters, right? So
Yeah.
we know vampires and spycraft is going to be the theme of the game. That's us as the meta walking into it. That
Yes.
does not necessarily mean, especially in this particular scenario, that Layla knows that.
Mhm.
But something I purposely have not called out because I believe it is that there is something oddly not unnerving about a giant bat, not unnerving to Layla about a pale-skinned man lifting a full grown ass man like it's nothing and throw him against the wall, right?
Mhm.
Like if you were just Joe Schmo, never seen anything like this before, that
Yeah.
alone would just like,
Send me.
cause all kinds of problems.
Mhm.
But it's not for Layla.
Mm.
Um, which at some level she has to understand.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Huh. Yeah. Uh, I actually went into this with the headcanon that Layla had been turned, that
Mm.
she was already a vampire at some point, and so it's like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense why she's not unnerved by any of this. It makes sense why her pain tolerance is so high." And then when you said, "By the way, you could see your reflection in the glass," I'm like, "Okay, alright, boom, she's not a vampire. Yet."
All right, so let's talk about stars. So stars is when you as a chance as a player get to tell me what worked. So was there any moments or times that you're like, I'm grooving. I'm really like this is working for me. When did it work the most in this session for you?
Oh, man, when you introduced Gigi. Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't that nickname, I just like I'm like I as more as you learn about Layla, I learn about Layla. And there's just something that tells me that there was this very immediate, like, grandfather, granddaughter, I let her get away with shit relationship, and that's where
Yep,
Gigi came from.
yep. And boy, did that get me directly in the feels.
Oh, good.
And then it's like, "Oh, cool, he's got a son. All right, sweet. We're gonna find his son. His son is dead, and it's because of me. Oh no." Oh, so uh my star there is a fantastic introduction of a very wholesome, very solid character introduction for Layla because yeah, she's a super secret spy and she's a badass and she's like, nigh untouchable, but Gigi, but Gigi. Like it humanizes Layla a little bit
Yeah.
more. She's more relatable as a character because she's got this grandfatherly figure in her life and the dogs. I love dogs. Me, Zoe loves dogs. So Layla therefore loves dogs. And that was just amazing. So
It
you got me.
what's so cool about this hobby is that, like, headcanon is created in an instant with the smallest details, right? So I gave you Gigi, I saw you react to it, and, like, I had this scene in my head of you calling him Gigi and Pieter being in the room going like, "What the f what?
You can't
You"
call him that.
right? And 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 him being pissed at you because his dad lets you call him that, right? Like, that whole thing in a flash went through my
Yes.
head, and that's
Oh,
what's so cool about this hobby. All right, so, Zoe, there's we had, in the Patreon Discord, we got an incredible compliment from a very active user, a person who has watched a lot of my APs, which God bless him. And he said, without question, our session one was one of the best single episodes ever on this channel, which I thought was pretty cool.
that thank you.
Um, and it matched the feeling that I had after our session one. And I talked to you about how my expectations were very high and they were exceeded. Only more so here in episode two. So for those watching, if they want more Zoe, where can we go to hear more and get more from you?
Well, there is a podcast that I run called The Writer's Room. It is a 7th Sea podcast. 7th Sea, for those who do not know, is a tabletop RPG based around swashbuckling and espionage and adventure and fantasy. Basically, take the Princess Bride and Pirates
Yep.
of the Caribbean and the Scarlet Pimpernel and smash them all together, and that's what you get. And I not only run a fantastic story from what my listeners tell me, I also teach you how to play the game during that with separate sections called Notes with the Narrator. And that is where you can find more of me as well as my co hosts. And I hope to be back again to finish asking more questions because this isn't done yet. I have to listen. If anything, if anything, there's a wish that Layla has, and that is to give Gigi closure on Piotr in the best non non-jarring way possible, okay? If nothing comes of this, Gigi has to be protected at all costs.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool how stakes are created at the table. Um, and instinctively, it's a good example of where you follow the player, right?
Mhm.
And as I was describing him and the dogs and things, I could recognize the bond that you were forming with this entire scenario. And it dictates which direction I go with it, right? And that's exciting and that's fun. Again, something I think that's unique about this hobby and definitely unique about one on one because we get to really focus on each other as we go through this. All right, guys, we have not scheduled session three. We'll do that after we get done here. So keep your eyes on all the socials, Third Floor Wars everywhere, and please check out the Writers Room. It's a phenomenal podcast, and one of the things that made me, it was a patron that turned me on and connected Zoe and myself, good old Wookie Gunner,
Hey, hi,
and
Wookie Gunner.
one of the things that immediately I picked up on is that something that Zoe and I share is that we recognize that play is not just role playing, it's a mixture of the mechanics with the table, with the play. And your teaching of the craft of role playing, I think, is what differentiates your podcast. So don't stop.
I won't. In fact, Chaosium endorses it. So
That's a big deal.
yeah. So if nothing else, go to Chaosium's website, see their little article that they wrote about us, and maybe that will convince you.
Yeah, talk to me about another GM that's had a chance to run a game
Mhm.
for John Wick.
Ah, there you go.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around. I hope everybody who's watching live has great holidays. We've got a bunch of coming in 2023, including episode 3 of this podcast.
Yes.
So I can't wait to play again.
I cannot wait to be Layla again. Let's go.
All right. Cheers. Take care, all.
Bye.
Howdy, friends. Thank you for watching. All our content is archived and organized in playlists on the Third Floor Wars YouTube channel. Check it out. And if you could like, follow, subscribe, and even set your notifications to this channel on YouTube and Twitch, we'd appreciate it, and it'll make sure that you catch all of our content. I talk with creators, designers, and experts across the gaming landscape in every episode of our podcast, Tabletop Talk. Open up your favorite podcatcher and search for Tabletop Talk from Third Floor Wars. Support your creators. They make the content you love, and it's your support that makes it happen. If you want to help us, go to Third Floor Wars on patreon.com, and you can help us for as little as $1 a month. Thanks again. We'll see you next time. Take care.